then. So if someone had to miss this conversation today and they don't have time to listen to the entire recording, what is it that you would like them to take away? So what was the one most valuable thing for you today? And maybe someone starts and just pass on the word to someone else so that we can get as many voices as possible in short time.
I could start. At the same time. Go ahead, Joyce.
Okay, I'll start with everyone's doing it differently.
And you pass it on to?
Elske.
Thank you. Well, my biggest learning is that I should work more on a library of templates and things that I reuse easily. And I'll pass it on to Jessica.
Quite similar as well, like that automation for some of these things can actually save you a lot of time, even if it's used across different clients. And I pass it on to Micah.
Hi, Jessica, it's Misha. I would say don't undersell your skills, don't undervalue yourself. I will pass it on to Manal.
My greatest takeaway was the breakout groups and just being fortunate enough to be with the folks that have been in the game for quite some time. So taking tidbits of wisdom from them. Thank you so much, Kirsty and Joyce. And I'll pass it on to Dove.
Hola. So my takeaway was that facilitation is a thing and you can actually earn money from it. And I'll pass it on to Niels.
Yes, thank you. Well, my key takeaway is that I have to think about value-based pricing and the value, and this is something we have to evolve a lot more. And I'll pass it to Bastian.
Thank you. What I'm taking is asking the client what the opportunity costs are for not doing it. That the average price in euros is 3,300 euros. So I can use that as a benchmark, and adding a project management fee for clients who have extensive processes that are a hurdle to get anything done is a good idea. And I pass it on to Leanne Slaughter.
Thanks. I got a lot out of observing Myriam run this session. The way you, make observations and keep people engaged in ways that are really appropriate for the medium and platform, like have us show our thumbs or do that. Like really efficient communication as individuals and as a group. Like I've learned so much just by observing how you do this. Thank you. And I would like to pass it to Kate.
Hey, yes, I show up to these meetings because I just love being around other facilitators or people who value facilitation. My biggest takeaway is, yes, just concrete understanding of what people are charging for their time. And I know that I believe in the value of what we do, and this was a great confidence boost that indeed there are people out there in the world who believe in the value of what we do and are willing to pay for it. So thank you. Mikala, would you like to go?
Nicola, yeah, thank you, Kate. So for me, it was really just remembering about the value and the value that I give to whoever I'm providing some work for. And it reminded me, and I was sharing this in one of the breakout rooms, why there was a disconnect in one situation where I really felt that I added some value, but I probably hadn't priced it high enough. And there's still some kind of, I can just feel discomfort around that. So yeah, I'm just great to be with a group of brilliant facilitators. So where's Sue Ellen? There she is.
Sorry,
Yeah.
no, I've just got to go. I've got to
Oh,
but thank you so much. That was great. Got loads out of it. Really, templating I think is really something, and not reinventing the wheel, and prep. I think you know, the prep side of it. I think I probably don't charge enough for prep. Who hasn't spoken? Sorry, I was rushing off. I've got to deliver a thing. Gabriel, you haven't spoken. Over to you. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
In addition to everything everyone else has said, we had a bit of an insight in our last conversation about preparation and analog, keeping things analog and simple, and considering that context. As a coach, part-time coach, sometimes you overcomplicate your practices that you give to the clients. And sometimes the simplest things are just as effective, and it could save both on preparation, but also solve for more powerful impact. So thank you, Grace, for bringing that up. That was great. And I will pass it on to Grace.
Thanks, Gabriel. So for me, the biggest, the most valuable thing is the idea that money is not dirty. Let's talk about it. Talk about the return on investment for our work and make the pie for the industry bigger. Who else hasn't talked?
Eva hasn't talked. Kirsty,
Eva,
Anya?
yeah, Eva.
Janine, Eugenio.
Okay, thank you. So the biggest takeaway for me is to see a bunch of people from Europe, which I usually don't see so much because the time doesn't overlap. So here in Asia. So thank you, Myriam, for creating this big community. And since I am from Europe originally, I really, feel drawn to it. So, and the second one is really seeing the numbers related to our practice. So thanks also for the survey and the results that you presented so clearly. I enjoyed that very much. And I'll pass it to Janine. Is it Janine?
Thanks. Yeah, that's right. Thanks. Yeah, it was so much value. Thank you, Myriam, for bringing this topic, and confidence boost and collaboration. That is so important. So I loved this session. I think we need more of that, much more of that pricing stuff and ROI. So love it. And sorry, oh God, I'm so tired today. I pass it on to who is missing. Eugenio, did I pronounce the name right? No, I didn't, right?
Good enough.
Sorry.
No problem. As long as you don't call me Emilio, it's okay how you pronounce it. Well, all models, all pricing models are good except the bad ones. And we only know when we make mistakes. And maybe sometimes we learn something with speaking with our peers. So thank you, Myriam, for this. Maybe we can avoid making the worst mistakes, but we need to make our own mistakes, many of them. Yeah. And who is still?
Anna, Kirsty, Anya.
Anna?
Okay. So thank you, Myriam, for this session. It was really interesting to see the diversity. What I learned is that, and I learned something that I already thought it's true, that sometimes unpaid preparation time should be considered an investment for future activities. And I was struck by the difference between US and Europe. And I wonder why. Probably you work for the same multinational who is located in US and Europe, and so such a big difference. So this is a question I need to answer. Thank you. And Kirsty.
This is a subject that I'm equally passionate about with Myriam, and we're going to talk about this as well. In that, I think it's so important that we get paid for our value, not just the number of hours that you actually work. So one of the messages I'd always give everyone back is know what you're worth, and don't be afraid to put that number down on a bit of paper. You need to be able to say it out aloud, by the way, as well, with confidence. And I was just saying to one of the groups, it's easier to drop your number than it is to go up. So start high. If the client says that's not possible, ask them what is, have a conversation, And if you need to negotiate and you're not sure how to do that, feel free to come and talk to me, because there's some really simple things that you do. And it's just about understanding what they value. And you'll get your price, I promise. Who's not been?
Anya?
Anya in Italy.
Thank you, Kirsty. I think what you mentioned last was a real confidence boost for everybody starting out. So yeah, thanks so much to Myriam, who put this all together. I think it's of such a value, because it's often that you seem to be alone, and what Myriam does is really building a community, and it's really thriving here. So thanks so much.
And I'll pass it on to
and
Myriam.
Who's missing?
Myriam.
Myriam herself. So go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. For me, yeah, I just enjoy hosting conversations and to see all the differences amongst facilitators. And I'm fascinated by everything we do. Some of us call themselves facilitators, most of us don't. And still what we do is facilitation. And yeah, as Kirsty said, and many of you also said, let's not forget the incredible value that we're putting into the world. And I honestly believe that we can change the world one workshop at a time. If our world leaders had better facilitators and had better conversations, we would have fewer wars. I totally believe that. And I think that every single one of us is contributing to this better world, one workshop at a time. So thank you for joining. I put the link to just sign up to any of my newsletters, and I send out the presentation. Everything was a little bit last minute. So I'm happy to share it with you, stay in the conversation, and yeah, join the Never Done Before residents, where we have more of these wonderful facilitators, conversations, workshops, learnings, community, love, and changing the world. So stay happy and healthy.
I have a question. Can you keep the line open? Because about your last sentence, last week and also yesterday, I witnessed a facilitation that changes the world, and I can share it with you in 5 minutes.
Wonderful.
I'm totally impressed by this.
Awesome. So those who want to change the world with us, stay for another 5 minutes. Otherwise, don't feel rude to just logging off.
Now I have to stay.
Want to change the world too?
I know how to pitch my topics, right? So about a week ago, I discovered an application called Clubhouse, which I don't know, I'm sure some of you heard. And there was apparently a 2-week, 24 hours a day discussion between Israelis and Palestinians, which was discussion on a heart-to-heart level. And so I have stakes in the game, I'm Israeli, but I stayed mainly because it was fascinating to see how it's facilitated. You can imagine a lot of heated people who have a lot of residue and emotions and agenda, and the way that it reaches a dialogue. So I'll describe the platform a little bit. So in the platform, it's a voice-only platform. You have no means to communicate with anyone else instead, except for a voice which is heard by everyone. There's 3 roles. So there's a moderator. Few people can be moderators. There are people who are on the stage and they can talk, and they're invited and can be kicked out by the moderators, and there are listeners. Now, and also one other nice quirk, the interface, the graphical interface allows you to do 2 things. One, when you're an observer, to raise your hand to say that you want to be on stage. And when you're on stage, to raise your hand to say that you want to talk, but you can talk anytime. And this thing is used by all of them also to signal, to clap is to turn on and off your signal, for example, like very simple. And there is one other option, which is lovely, and it's called Live Quietly. And it has like a peace sign, and you live without saying a word to anyone. No, bye-bye, take care, thank you. That's it. Now about the moderation, it was facilitated by people who are highly professional, like people who deal with how to de-escalate political situations, by psychoanalysts, people like that. And they gave anyone who wants to talk the platform to talk, but to talk only about your experience and how you feel. And when you talk, don't say anything that will oblige someone who talked before you to respond. Like, don't say what you say is a lie, or what would you say to that? Like, and this constant, one more thing, because it's a voice-only platform, there is something called the reset. So once every half hour, let's say, the moderators reinstate the goal of this conversation, what are the rules, how it works for new people, how it works. So like, and this, if you stay long enough, also pumps into your consciousness the rules of this discussion. So if you stay for 2 hours, you hear it over and over and over, and it goes into your psyche. And so I was fascinated listening to this. They're going to have a weekly 24 hours now. The last one was started on Sunday evening, Europe time, and finished yesterday evening. And I was glued to this. Like I unless I had a meeting, I couldn't do anything else. I would just listen to this. Highly recommended. And for me, one other thing that I learned from this, as I said, even though I have stakes in the game, I'm less interested to see how this conflict can be resolved, and more, I'm delighted to be a witness to the fact that highly charged big conflicts can be resolved using facilitation tools, techniques, approaches, whatever you want to call that.
Yeah.
And just for statistics, and by that I'm finished. In these 2 weeks, they said 500,000 people tuned in to this. And on the average, I heard 2 messages. I don't know which one of them is the right one. Either on average, they stayed more than 1 hour or more than 3 hours. So the impact on this can be enormous. And with this, I'm complete.
And what's the name of that room?
I think is the Israeli-Palestinian exchange.
Check Dove's LinkedIn profile. Not only he shares wonderful stuff, and it's gratitude day 1 or day 3.
I think it's day 3.
Day 3. Gratitude day 3. He shares the link.
Okay.
And follow him anyway. It's worth it.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Dove, I would be very interested to have a deeper conversation on what it takes to actually facilitate a conversation on Clubhouse. We did a silent, Dove contributed a silent workshop to the Never Done Before residents, 90 minutes in total silence, which takes a different facilitation approach than having only word and nothing visual.
I wouldn't do this on Clubhouse, by the way.
No.
Very quiet, wouldn't it?
A silent workshop on Clubhouse. The stakes are very low. I would be very curious to dive into the conversation of what it takes to actually facilitate a conversation on Clubhouse, because I'm intrigued, and I've experienced only few well-facilitated conversations when there's only audio and when it's so free floating. So if you're up for it, I schedule your time.
Why not examine it by booking a meeting on Clubhouse and see what happens, and playing around with it.
Perfect. Let's do that. We have a. I put the link in the chat. We have a Never Done Before Clubhouse location, and so let's do that and have a conversation on how to facilitate conversations on Clubhouse. Dove, we will find a time to do that, and I hope you will all join us.
Awesome. Thanks for your 5 minutes. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.